approaching fibula.
Enemy doctrine and capabilities dictate an extension of the battle into the division's rear area. This would involve penetrations aimed at disrupting our communications, command, and control systems, destroying high-priority targets, and engaging logistics headquarters and installations. This threat requires that a high degree of early warning and protection be afforded to rear area units and potential targets, and that combat forces are required to provide this protection. The range of activities that will threaten the division's rear area are small raiding parties or diversionary groups, large-scale airborne and air-mobile operations, and penetration by battalion-sized maneuver groups. Some of these activities will be supported by nuclear and chemical strikes, airstrikes, and electronic attack, centered on headquarters and communications nodes, radars and air defense elements, the capture or destruction of key D-files, bridges and road junctions, the destruction of dumps, the seizure of landing zones, drop zones and key terrain, and the capture of prisoners, documents, and equipment. The attack into rear area will be launched simultaneously with actions forward of and at the forward edge of the battle area, where the aim is to disrupt the entire defensive structure of the division. The defensive battle will be fought simultaneously in 3 areas: forward of the FIBA, at the FIBA, and in the rear area. Rear area security and damage control must be included as a part of the division's main battle plan. RASDC activities within the division's rear area are planned and executed as any other operation. These are handled by the division's service group commander through the Rear Area Security and Damage Control Center at Disc Group headquarters. Low-level threats are handled by local units, and major tasks are undertaken by a designated all-arms combat unit. Rear area security involves units being responsible for both passive and active defense. Passive defense is continuously executed by all rear area units. The rear area is subdivided into sectors of responsibility, where the commanding officer of the unit occupying the sector is designated the Sector RAS Task Force Commander. The units occupying the sector must be prepared to deal with harassment-type activities of enemy forces. This involves measures for self-protection, with every location organizing a quick reaction force to counter enemy attacks against their location or installation. Active defense is executed by a designated combat force, whose only mission is rear area security. This encompasses counterattacks to eliminate enemy penetrations, active patrolling, a reporting system, static defense based on vital points, obstacles, and likely landing and drop zones, and rapid reaction by artillery and attack helicopters. These troops are drawn from combat units of the division, particularly the Division Reconnaissance Regiment or a mechanized infantry battalion. In addition, combat forces could come from a corps unit, indigenous forces, or forces assigned from the host country. During the covering force phase of the force battle, rear area security tasks may be assigned to composite forces drawn from units in the division's rear area. These forces will be tasked directly by Disc Group headquarters. At least one air-mobile force should be organized to respond on an area-wide basis. As the main defensive battle develops, the unit tasked for the active defense of the area would likely hand over to the Division Reconnaissance Regiment on completion of its withdrawal from the covering force battle, or to a mechanized infantry battalion. Command would be effected through a liaison officer at Disc Group headquarters. Rear area security and damage control operations are executed through the Rear Area Security and Damage Control Center, established at Disc Group headquarters. In addition to the planning and control of operations, the center provides information on road conditions, locations, security and support activities, and medical facilities, weather, terrain and intelligence data, communications, convoy movement, contamination levels, and explosive ordnance disposal support. The center, at division level, is organized into an operations cell and an intelligence and plan cell. The operations cell controls the activities of units designated for or activated in support of rear area security and damage control operations. It implements orders, maintains current site data and available forces inventories, coordinates air and artillery support, and controls committed troops. The intelligence and plan cell collects intelligence, prepares contingency plans, and defines the vulnerability status of units and installations. In addition, it prepares plans on the employment of forces and on monitoring and survey operations. The Rear Area Security and Damage Control Center assigns a category to all rear area units, less those assigned as active defense combat forces, based on how critical the unit is to the overall division support mission. Rear area security missions are primarily executed by Category 1 units, installations, or facilities. Category 2 units are limited to conducting local surveillance and defense measures, and are required to be completely self-dependent. Category 3 units have little security or damage control potential, and will, if their importance deems it necessary, require additional protection. Planning must incorporate all geographic responsibilities under a single commander, include a designated operations center with the necessary communications, and integrate all larger units into the overall plan. Rear area security and damage control planning must be incorporated into the divisional operations plan and be closely coordinated at all levels, with full use being made of all resources and data. Forces assigned to rear area security missions are tasked to protect lines of communication, installations and units, to block enemy forces that have penetrated the forward edge of the battle area, and to destroy enemy air mobile, airborne, and guerrilla forces. The disc group commander determines the key terrain to be defended, likely drop and landing zones and assembly areas. His planning is based on the enemy capability, troops available, and unit locations. Key components of his plan include area surveillance, counterattacks against enemy forces, operations against guerrilla forces, protection of critical elements and lines of communications, alert and warning systems, contingency planning, use of obstacles to inhibit airborne and air mobile insertions, and the use of helicopters for air patrols and airlift. Rear area security may be executed by deploying task forces to a series of defensive positions, or by elements with assigned surveillance sectors using observation posts and patrols, backed by a mobile reserve. Effective security is contingent upon early warning, regular communications checks, maintaining contact with the enemy, and moving reserves to meet the threat. Observation posts are sited to maintain observation over routes, installations, and landing zones. Helicopter and ground patrols maintain contact between observation posts and local defensive positions. The security of lines of communication may be undertaken by assigning local areas of responsibility, with light forces on dominating features along the route, and a mobile reserve to counter any threats. With a long line of communication, a series of observation posts are established to provide warning of an approaching enemy. The route is patrolled, convoys are escorted, and mobile reserves are maintained at various locations. Helicopters may be used to assist the patrols and to move reserves to a threatened location. Early warning against enemy airborne, air mobile, or guerrilla operations is accomplished by observation posts and patrols, which cover landing and drop zones and areas where enemy forces might be assembled. These are backed by a small, centrally located reserve or by nearby forces not actively engaged with the enemy. Anti-landing obstacles, conventional and scatterable mines, and artillery fire would be used to inhibit landings. Following early warning of an attack, a typical sequence of events might include immediate notification of the threat to Rear Area Security and Damage Control Center, early confirmation by the element in contact as to size, nature, and intentions of the enemy. Dissemination of warning. Increased state of readiness by self-defense forces. Maintaining contact with the enemy. Assignment of forces to fix the enemy, and tactical action to effect his destruction. The disc group does not have the technical expertise or manpower to undertake major damage control activities, but it is responsible to control and coordinate damage control actions. Areas of responsibility are assigned, which coincide with operational boundaries and rear area security sectors. Within these areas, units are tasked to organize reconnaissance and rescue teams. Before an attack, damage control measures involve a warning system, dispersion of units, standing operating procedures, organizing unit damage control teams, deception, cover and concealment, alternate plans, and a thorough knowledge of alternate route capabilities. During and after an attack, measures involve damage assessment, repair priorities, route repairs and bypasses, redeployment of units and installations, firefighting, casualty evacuation, hazard warnings, emergency supplies, salvage, EOD operations, and decontamination. Tasks are identified to division headquarters with recommended repair priorities. Damage control planning must include a redundancy of routes and facilities and take into account the exposure of personnel to contamination and fallout. Rear area security and damage control operations will be conducted in concert with those in the forward areas, and they must be considered in any operational estimate. The Rear Area Security and Damage Control Center must keep continually updated on its information and be prepared to execute its security plans with whatever troops are assigned. This single coordinating agency will give the commander the maximum freedom in fighting the division's battle in the forward area.